Chronic migraine is 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for adults with migraine with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It prevents, on average, 8 to 9 headache days a month versus 6 to 7 for placebo.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Ask your doctor and visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, welcome to those of you on WGIG down in Brunswick, Georgia, although I'm on delay. We got some phone calls wondering where I was. I'll be on in the evenings down there starting today, but delighted to have you guys with me. As always, if you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you can get the show notes, the live stream, the podcast, and so much more. Now, we got to move on to the tragedy of the Biden family. This is from Alex Thompson, and I'm kind of surprised to see this. And I want to read some of this for you because it's kind of revealing. The recent courtroom revelations about the turmoil in Joe Biden's family have left some of his aides torn about whether he should have run for president at all. The vicious nature of contemporary politics has ripped through the Biden clan since he re-entered politics in 2019, as his historic presidency has doubled as a family tragedy. When Biden declared for president in 2019, his family was plagued by addiction, grief, and soap opera levels of drama. The legal cases involving his son Hunter and daughter Ashley have shown. It's affected the president. Aides know to tiptoe around him when there's bad family news, and he's often angry or distracted about the legal and political attacks on them, according to 5 people familiar with the dynamic. His family struggles, along with the still raw personal grief over his son Beau's death in 2015, can manifest with tears and an impenetrable sadness, as one person close to Biden called it. I would call it guilt. It's all led Biden to rely more heavily on those he's known the longest, creating a protective inner circle around him. Biden announced his 2020 campaign at a time when both his children were struggling with addictions to drugs. Hunter was still in a spiral of addiction to crack and alcohol when he left D.C. for California in the 24 hours surrounding his father entering the presidential race on October 25, 2019. That was revealed in bank records presented at the trial. Biden's daughter, Ashley, was in outpatient rehab in Florida and occasionally relapsing in the first half of 2019. According to her recovery diary, which was later stolen and given to a right-wing news source, Ashley recently confirmed the diary was hers during the trial. Now, wait a second. There were also predatory issues about her father and her that the media has danced around in that diary. If those entries are true, that might explain part of the issue here. Meanwhile, Beau's widow, Haley Biden, had only recently gotten sober from crack cocaine, which Hunter had introduced to her during their tumultuous romantic relationship. Haley also testified that when she and Hunter were together, their 2 school-aged children went through a period where both of the adults in the home were addicts and the kids would stumble upon crack paraphernalia. Y'all, I'm going to go down this road. There, but by the grace of God, go all of us. I am blessed to have 2 children who I dearly love, who are well-mannered, well-behaved, and have stayed out of trouble. There, by the grace of God, go I and you. My oldest has struggled because of my job, having had an assortment of very awful things happen to her because of me. And I thank God she has not blamed me for the terrible things that happened because of me. But she has struggled with making good friends, with worries, fears about bad things happening. You know, I have 2 kids who get anxiety because it's election season. That's the world in which I live. I have 2 kids who get anxiety because of election season, because we had people come to our house to threaten to kill us. I shouldn't say threaten to kill us, just threaten us, threaten to destroy me. We had to have guards in our house. The most traumatic day of my daughter's life was we had guards protecting our house because we had had 3 people show up to threaten us. We had people drive by the house and yell things and leave things. So we had these security guards. And my daughter one morning decided to get up and make breakfast, just like Pillsbury cinnamon dough rolls, for the security guard. She took him the cinnamon roll, and he was sound asleep in the car. And it scared her badly that the guy she thought was there to protect us wasn't doing anything. My kids were chased through a store once by a man yelling at them that I was destroying the country. They lost friends at school. My daughter was given a guide on how to commit suicide, that if she committed suicide, I might see the light. I mean, just all sorts of stuff. I didn't even know, like the whole suicide stuff. No one in my family told me at the time these things were happening. They didn't want me to change my mind. They didn't want me to change. And I just need you to know that I think about that stuff when I think about this Biden stuff. And all I can think is that if I was screwing up my kids so badly that they were turning to drugs and alcohol, and it's a pattern, let's be honest here, there's a pattern here. You got 2 screwed up kids. Joe, why are you running for office? I would stop everything in my life if my kids were having those problems. Joe Biden entered office when his wife and child were killed in a vehicular accident. And instead of staying home to be a father to his 2 sons, he went off to Congress, went off to the Senate. And then he gets remarried to Jill Biden, and they have a daughter, Ashley Biden, and she's as screwed up as Hunter Biden. And her diary says some profoundly disturbing things about her father's behavior towards her. And if we're to treat her statements in the diary about her recovery seriously, I think we've got to treat the predatory things about her father in the diary seriously and ask if that had something to do with screwing her up. Look, if you're a longtime listener of this program, you know I have not said a lot of this stuff. I have not been frank about my views on this, because I try to avoid going down the grounds that some in the conservative movement go down that I think are a distraction from the larger issues. But it's got to be said here, if it's an Axios, if this is coming out now, Joe Biden has 2 screwed up kids, both of them in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And if you got a whole clan of people in your family who are that screwed up, at some point you should be asking yourself, what part did you play? And is there some way to undo the damage? And maybe Joe Biden's given up, but there's a larger issue here. And it's the impolite issue, but it's the one that probably needs to be said, and I might as well say it. God forbid I hold my tongue back because I think that somebody's going to be upset with something I say. If Joe Biden has a son who's a drug addict and a daughter who's a drug addict, and the daughter admits that her diary is real and there are disturbing allegations in the diary about things her father did to her, and on top of that, Joe Biden has a habit of having German shepherds who regularly bite people. The portrait we have of Joe Biden is actually not a flattering portrait of an empathetic, kind old grandfather. It's actually the portrait of a narcissistic predator who is no better than what he claims Donald Trump is. Donald Trump doesn't have dogs biting people, particularly the Secret Service agents who are there to keep him safe. Joe Biden does. Joe Biden has a daughter who's gone into recovery for her drug addiction, who, when he was running for president of the United States the first time, was deeply in drugs, as was Hunter Biden. And Joe Biden decided instead of that his highest and best purpose was not as a father, but as a political candidate for office. That doesn't speak well of Joe Biden. There, but by the grace of God, go all of us. All of us could potentially have kids who go off the rails and could still have kids who go off the rails. But I'd like to think that I, as a father, would move heaven and earth to help my kids instead of saying, I'm going to go run for office now. I'm not going to be involved in your life. I'm going to be distracted by a campaign. This doesn't speak well of Joe Biden at all. Separate the family from the dogs. The dogs alone, having these German shepherds who regularly bite. There's another report. It turns out they covered up more biting by the German shepherds of Secret Service agents and other White House staff, the staff who were there to make his life comfortable, the Secret Service who were there to protect him, and Joe Biden letting the dogs bite everybody. You add the dogs biting everyone of the White House story to his daughter was screwed up and said really disturbing things about Joe Biden's behavior in the same diary the press says is real. Hunter Biden being as screwed up as he was, trading on his father's name for benefit. Joe Biden letting him get him away with it. Other press reports that Joe Biden's aides advised Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's brother, we're dealing with a deeply screwed up family with a patriarch who is not the kind fatherly, grandfatherly figure we've been led to believe, but himself a narcissist who abandoned his family for public office. His son's mother died, and Joe Biden's response was to move himself to Washington, D.C. and be in the Senate, not to be home and taking care of his sons who had lost their mother. And then Joe Biden remarries Jill Biden, and their daughter also descends into drug addiction. We are responsible for our own lives and our own actions, and Hunter Biden is responsible for his actions, and Ashley Biden is responsible for her actions. But I can't help note that in the mix of all of this, between the dogs and the kids, is Joe Biden and Jill Biden too. Parents are not responsible for the actions of their children. They're not. But I think about my kids and all the worries I've had with my wife and her illness and what would happen if I was widowed because of my wife's cancer. And I can't imagine abandoning my kids like Joe did to go to Washington. Would have to rearrange my life for my kids because they're the most important thing to me. But Joe Biden's kids act as if their father never conveyed to them at the age where he needed to convey it that they were the most important thing to him. And yeah, I think that needs to be said. Again, all of us could have screwed up kids. By the grace of God, we don't. But when you add the dogs randomly biting the Secret Service agents, the daughter writing about the inappropriate things her father did to her, and confirms the diary is real, and confirms the drug addictions, and the son has the drug addiction, and the father has continually put his career before his family, and the only thing he's done, I guess, to make himself feel less guilty is allowed the children to trade on his name to make money. That doesn't speak well of Joe Biden at all. It's almost like this is a man who could be confronted with Americans in Afghanistan and leave them all behind, and be confronted with American hostages held by Hamas and do nothing for them either. But maybe if they come back, if they're released and by the grace of God alive, maybe he'll let them trade on his name too. None of this speaks well of Joe Biden.
Blinds.com Cyber Monday Last Chance is happening now. Don't miss out on up to 45% off site-wide. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can handle everything from measure to your whole home installed for one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 45% site-wide, plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Pierce, you're going to be the next caller today. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you, Eric?
Good.
I listened to your last segment, and I just had to call in. And I think Joe Biden might – I know he's real proud, but I think he could be convinced to leave the campaign, except Jill won't let him, because that would be surrendering to Donald Trump.
Oh, I think there's a lot of truth there from what we know. Jill Biden is the one who convinced Joe that he needed to run for re-election, that Joe Biden, as I understand it, had told people he would be the one-term president who could unite the Democratic Party, give him 4 years to find some common ground. He would step aside. The problem is Kamala is deeply unpopular, so they would have a fight over who would be the nominee. And Jill Biden decided, Joe, you got to stay another 4 years because the party's going to be squabbling and Trump's got to be beaten. Never mind, he's not up to it. It's sad to see.
It's sad. I mean, after what I saw, what was it, over the weekend?
Yeah.
And Obama having to get him off the stage. And then last week at the G7, for crying out loud, he goes wandering away from everybody. I'm like, how can we not see this?
Right.
And we're going to put this guy back in the White House for another 4 years.
Yeah, I got to tell you, and I want to talk about this when we come back, because I don't know that the American people are. The Democrats are now having to refer to what the GOP is doing, editing video, as cheap fakes, that they're just cutting video to make it look bad. It's not actually true. Like, for example, the G7 summit, we showed the video of Biden wandering away. He was waving to American soldiers, yelling at them. That's fair. Except when you have all of the G7 leaders look in his direction and nudge Melania that you've got to go get him and turn him around, and then they all go circle around Joe Biden to protect him. Clearly, there's more going on than he was just waving to American soldiers, as his people would tell us. Same with Obama on stage. When you got to turn around, tap his elbow and grab his hand, there's a problem. Pierce, I got to let you go there, but it's the common denominator is the Democrats telling us don't believe your eyes. They're gaslighting us. Now, I want you to believe your eyes and ears working with Vision Computers. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. See how quick they answer the phone, how responsive they are. If you need a computer built, they can build you a PC and save you money and get you what you need and what you want, as opposed to the big box store. That's going to be one size fits all. Vision's going to build you the computer you need, and then you get their service department. You get the special phone number you call, 15 seconds or less. They answer any question you have about the computer. But let's say you did not buy the computer from Vision. Let's say you're a small business. You got a bunch of computers. You can't afford the IT budget. You can't afford an in-house computer fixer-upper. Well, Vision can do it. $179 a year, not a week, not a month, not a day. $179 a year per computer. They can be your computer resource. So your employees, even if you didn't get your computer from Vision, if you got your computer from Vision, this is free. If you didn't get your computer from Vision, it's just $179 a year. Your employees get the phone number. They call 15 seconds or less. They get the answer to their question. Email support, printer support, server support, everything you need from Vision Computers. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. Tell them I sent you. 404-COMPUTER, visioncomputers.com. Greetings. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be delighted to have you with me. Now, I do want to talk more on just the political issues here revolving around Biden and the struggles he is having because, well, Democrats, they're not yet plotting abandoning Joe Biden, but they're probably going to start. Now, I gotta let me find this piece. Was it Tom Bevan who did it? Yes. Tom didn't do it. Tom sent it out. So, okay. There is a piece from the Daily Mail, and the headline is exclusive. Secret Democrat plot to replace Biden revealed. How Clinton, Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer will topple the aging president and when they'll do it. Here is what you need to know about this. It's not a secret plot. It's not a secret plot. When you read the piece, it's not at all a secret plot. It is a hypothetical of what it would look like if there was a secret plot. Now, the reality is that Jill Biden just thinks that Joe Biden is that he needs to run for president. The reality is that Jill Biden is afraid that if Joe Biden doesn't run for president, he's going to go home and die. I'm just being blunt with you. Y'all know the stories of so-and-so lives a long, happy life. He retires and drops dead. I mean, life is just there. There are too many of these stories to recount that someone decides to hang up his hat. He's going to stop working, and within 6 months to a year, dead. That's why I'm never going to quit working. I plan on living a very long time. I'm going to die behind this microphone mid-breath one day, many, many years from now, good Lord willing, I'll be in the middle of a profound and titillating point, and there will be silence. And you'll think it's something wrong with your radio. Nope, good Lord called me home then and there. In mid-sentence of a profound point, leaving you hanging, conspiracy theorists will for years debate what I was saying. Y'all know the stories. Same thing with Jill Biden. Jill Biden thinks that if Joe isn't president, he's going to drop dead. And she'd be stuck with Ashley and Hunter and dealing with the pieces. Now, I want you to know Charlie is texting me that I'll be long retired by then and 6 feet under. He's leaving that part out. Yep. I mean, Charlie thinks he's going to retire one day and go live this happy, merry life in Montana. Nope. He is going to retire from the show one day, and we'll be attending his funeral. Look, y'all know the stories. All these people decide they're going to go retire, enjoy life. They're going to take a cruise. Yep, take a cruise right over into the promised land is what it does. Nope, I'm going to work. I'm going to work. Nonetheless, that's why Jill does not want Joe to give this up. Jill does not want to deal with Hunter and Ashley and the biting dogs by herself. So to push Joe out of the race, you got to get Jill Biden's permission. The one thing that could convince Jill Biden to let Joe Biden go is that unless they do it, Trump's going to win. So this gets back to the scoop. The secret plot. Charlie Spearing. And again, it's not really a secret plot. This is the hypothetical of what it would look like. White House spokesperson Andrew Bates is denying Biden froze in the viral video on stage with Barack Obama, calling it a cheap fake video being spewed by the media. But it seems no matter how much cold water the Biden campaign or Democratic Party throw on this raging fire of speculation, Americans will not be put off the great Joe Biden replacement theory. It's an idea that somehow, some way, the president will be swapped out as the Democratic Party's candidate. Dropping out would be a big risk, but there's some threshold below which continuing to run is a bigger risk, says political guru Nate Silver. Are we there yet? I don't know, but it's more than fair to ask. It is fair to ask. It's very fair to ask. Here's what you need to know. There is no current plot to push Joe Biden out among Democrats. Democrats actually think that the only person they could replace him with is Kamala Harris, and she's worse than him and more disliked than him, so why bother? However, at some point, if the debate, for example, in 10 days is terrible, there's going to be renewed momentum. You've got all these viral videos. The Democrats can deny them, but you've got to deny with your own eyes what you're seeing. The two different videos coming out of the G7 conference where Biden would seem confused about where he should be, where he was going. Maloney having to pull him back to the crowd and they all protectively surround him. Then there is the video of Barack Obama having to gingerly lead him off stage with his hand along Joe Biden's back the whole time, guiding him off stage. The Democrats say this is a quote-unquote cheap fake where the video was it wasn't a fake video, but it was edited to make it look bad. No, it wasn't. You can see the whole video for yourself. It's actually worse when you see the whole video. Barack Obama has to guide Joe Biden off the stage the whole time. Naturally, all this is renewed conversation. And if there is a bad debate, and historically, incumbent presidents, the first debate is bad for them. If there is a bad debate, they're going to be renewed calls. So what does it look like? Charlie Spearman in the Daily Mail says that Atlantic columnist Mark Leibovich is referring to President Trump as Ruth Bader Biden, who angered liberals by refusing to give up and leaving, and then she died in office. James Carville, the political mastermind behind Clinton's presidential campaign, said flat out that Biden should not have run for election. And now a last-ditch effort by Biden's backers to silence his critics inside the party may prove to be his ultimate undoing. According to David Axelrod, the Biden team scheduled one of the earliest presidential debates in history to prove the naysayers that Joe's not going anywhere. But the gambit carries tremendous risks. While an efficient debate performance by Biden could help rally Democrats behind him, former Clinton advisor and polling expert Mark Penn suggested the CNN debate will be Biden's last chance to reassure voters. Now Daily Mail has learned if Biden stumbles in that first face-off with Trump or if his polling numbers keep falling, either one, it'll take a united effort of the liberal grandees to make Joe throw in the towel. The only people who could force him out will be Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer. It would have to be the four of them collectively, and the process would be high risk. One consultant theatrically described the difficult level of replacing their candidate as similar to trying to turn that doomed container ship that careened into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland. That sad story ended with a total collapse and 6 dead. But other party leaders concede that the candidate swap could work if everything was carefully planned and executed. This isn't, the headline is the secret plot to replace Biden revealed. There's no secret plot. This is all speculation of what it would look like, how they would have to proceed to make it happen. But they haven't solved the Kamala problem. Quote, that person would not be Vice President Kamala Harris, who, according to sources, observed that Harris has already had to fend off a push to replace her on the ticket. It doesn't just become Kamala. Kamala only becomes the nominee if Biden dies, says one consultant. Another Democratic political insider believes Harris failed so badly as vice president she made it nearly impossible for Biden to step aside. So you'd have to get Jill Biden's permission, and even then it may not work. And even then, you'd have to be stuck with Kamala Harris or open the Democratic Party to civil war. There's no way out here for Joe Biden. I'll tell you what, though. I have a piece of advice for Donald Trump. Now, my advice and a couple of bucks will get you bad coffee at Starbucks. But my advice for Donald Trump is go easy on Joe Biden in the first debate. Help Joe Biden have a good debate. Because you know, and I know, that Joe Biden's not up to it. But if Donald Trump goes easy on Joe Biden and lets Joe Biden claim a good debate, that's going to allay all of the concerns about Biden dropping out. And you get to August, Joe Biden becomes the Democratic nominee. He's not going to improve with age. But you will have locked in Joe Biden as the nominee or Kamala Harris as the nominee if you go easy on him and he doesn't flub his first debate. If he reassures, he doesn't have to have the winning performance. He just can't have a disastrous performance. And Donald Trump can make it so that Joe Biden doesn't have a disastrous performance until it's too late for the Democrats to walk away from him and Kamala Harris in August. And then you go full bore. That next debate, Donald Trump comes swinging. Joe Biden flubs it. He leaves people with a bad taste in his mouth. Oh, my gosh, he really does have dementia. This is terrible. What can the Democrats do? Nothing. They cannot do anything. They're stuck with him and Harris after August, after the convention. You push Biden out before the convention, you've introduced a uncontrollable wild card. I still think it becomes Kamala Harris, which honestly continues to help Donald Trump. But why introduce a needless wild card when you can just make sure Joe Biden doesn't have a disastrous debate? The Democrats breathe easy. They lock him in as their nominee, and then suddenly it's revealed, oh my gosh, he really does have all of the dementia everybody said he had. They're stuck at this point. They're stuck. That in and of itself would be very funny to watch as the Democrats realize we walked into Donald Trump's trap at the debate. Now, our economy may be walking into a trap because the BRICS are buying up all the gold out there. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, they're buying up the gold reserves. Then you got banking collapses and more teetering on the brink. Usually mid-market banks, the ones that did a lot of corporate loans and commercial real estate, regulators are fighting this, what appears to be an unwinnable war. Factor in 22-year high interest rates. Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years. I know they've been warning about people about a secret war on cash for some time. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from the secret war, I got an idea. Get their free report. Rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, Swiss America can educate you on protecting your assets. Shocking free report, The Secret War on Cash. I watched The Secret War on Cash on YouTube. It was actually really fascinating. You can check it out, their YouTube channel. Go to SwissAmerica.com/YouTube. You can get their channel, see the video that they've got, The Secret War on Cash. The report takes less than 50 minutes to read. It can save your retirement. It can save you on finances. It's free to you from Swiss America. To get your copy, go to 800-289-2646. The All Out War on Cash, digital currencies too, growing daily. Get and read The Secret War on Cash. It's free to you guys. Just mention Eric, E-R-I-C-K, when you call or text 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. Call and get your free report. Mention Eric when you call or text 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. Greetings, conversationalists. It is Eric Erickson here. The Wall Street Journal has a very interesting piece out. The headline is, Why Democrats Keep Losing the Battle for Small-Town America. Subtitle, Voters in rural North Carolina reflect the mounting challenges facing President Biden in swing states, voicing discontent with the economy, illegal immigration, and inflation. Christy Fail attended her first Wilson County Republican Party meeting in 2015, held in a back room at Pup's Steakhouse. Fewer than a dozen people showed up. They passed a hat to cover rent on the group's post office box. Less than a decade later, the Wilson County GOP has its own office park headquarters, 36,000 of the bank, and a voter turnout operation that helped Republicans carry the county in the 2022 midterm elections. We've reached people who've never been to a Republican event at all, says Vale, 54 years old. She served as the county's party chair during the local GOP's ascent from 2016 to 2023, growth that comes at the expense of the Democrats. Since 2016, the number of registered Democrats has fallen 19% in rural Wilson County, while unaffiliated voters have grown 33%. Republican registration is largely unchanged, and local GOP leaders say their focus will be turning out their votes in November's presidential election. The Democratic Party is losing rural voters, an especially serious problem for President Biden's reelection. Republicans have long held an electoral advantage in rural communities, but many of those areas aren't growing as fast as cities. Vail is betting that higher gas and food prices will tip the scales to Donald Trump in November. Biden, who's visited North Carolina several times, faces 3 Republican advantages. More Black Americans in rural North Carolina farming communities might stay home on Election Day or vote Trump. The Democratic Party is no longer competitive in the state's predominantly white and poor Mountain West. In fast-growing outer suburbs of Charlotte and Raleigh, so-called county-politan counties, there are signs of a growing voter alignment with rural communities. North Carolina has the second highest number of people living in rural areas among states after Texas. See, this happens. Ex-urban areas of the country, that is, areas outside beyond the suburbs. Y'all know the areas. You get out past the strip malls, and it's not rural. You're still within about 20 minutes of a hospital or so. You're still within 20 minutes of suburban and urban amenities, but the lots are larger. You don't see your neighbors as much. You got to drive further to get places, but there's still enough city lights you can't see the stars. Those are ex-urban areas. And ex-urban voters, a lot of people who left the cities to the suburbs are now leaving the suburbs to the ex-urban areas. They're not quite farmers. They're not out there far, but they are completely realigning to be with the GOP regardless of race. Regardless of race, that is happening. And that really affects the demographics. Now, for those of you who don't know where Wilson County, North Carolina is, it's to the east of Raleigh, south of Rocky Mount, North Carolina, north of Goldsboro, North Carolina, to the east of Greenville, North Carolina, to the west of Greenville, North Carolina, to the east of Raleigh. It's out in a rural part of the state, but it's not that far from some more urban areas. North of Fayetteville, east of Raleigh, east of Durham. And the people there, they're identifying more and more as independents, not even Republicans, except even though they identify as independent, they're becoming conservative voters who vote Republican, even if they don't want to go to the county party meetings. And those sorts of things matter significantly in large part because those independent voters show up and vote their interests. And their interests are not aligned with an urban Democratic Party that wants to put them in electric vehicles and get rid of their gas water heaters and gas appliances. And they vote on cultural issues too. They've moved there or they live there mostly by choice. And they don't like the white urban wokes trying to disrupt their way of life. And they're open to voting Republican to stop a cultural shift away from them. And the Democrats, they don't seem to understand that anymore. And it's happening not just with white voters, it's happening with Black and Hispanic voters as well, and some Asian voters as well who move to those areas and begin to identify more and more as Republican. The Democrats are losing those areas, causing a political realignment, largely because of the Democratic Party's values more than the Republican Party's values.